So, hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Miguel. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I interview an amazing Black woman every single day during Black History Month. And today's episode, I am wonderfully delighted to have Queen Sheba, who is an amazing poet, the founder of Poetry versus Hip Hop, and a Grammy-nominated collaborator. It's going to be an amazing conversation. Take a listen. Hi, Queen Sheba. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you
You
for
know,
having
this
me.
just hanging out, interviewing folks all day long. It's fun.
Sounds like fun.
uh, it is on top of my day job. So the podcast always has the same first question. Answers are always amazing. I have no doubt yours will be too. So, Queen Sheba, what was your first job?
My very first job, believe it or not, and people probably always say believe it or not, was J.C. Penney's. J.C. Penney's was my very first job. I was 15 years old. I was living in a youth home in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I've always liked to dress up as a young child. I still dress up for absolutely no reason to go to CVS or whatever. And so I wanted a job after school. And my leader, I guess, I don't even know what they were called, counselor, I guess, took me job hunting, and I went to apply at JCPenney's, and I got hired on the spot.
Wow. And what did you end up doing?
How long did I do JCPenney's?
Oh, what did
Um,
you end up doing while you were there? Were you a
so
cashier?
I was a cashier. I was immediately a cashier, and I was in the men's department, I believe, and I got fired for stealing. And
Wow, that's a
yep.
first. Okay.
So I was in a youth home and I didn't get, I didn't have an allowance or a stipend or anything. And we did, at that time, I was in an open youth home. So we did go to high school. So, I felt like I wasn't making enough, I guess. And so every night that I worked, I would take a $20 bill out of the cash register and put it in my left shoe. And after about not very long. I mean, probably about 2 weeks, they were like, hey, can we see you in the office? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, what's going on? And so I probably worked there for 3 months. And I don't think I started stealing until, well, obviously the third month. So it was around prom season. Oh, that's what it was. It was around prom season. And I needed money for a dress. That's what it was. I was like, what? I was like, why did I start stealing 3 months in? Okay. It was around prom season. And
Makes sense.
yeah, and I needed money for a dress. And again, I'm in a youth home, and I started putting $20 in my left shoe. And granted, I only work like 3 nights a week, so this stealing was not large at all.
Yeah.
And so by the time they caught me, I had stolen like a whole $120. And they were like,
Oh, yeah.
I
Like you
know.
can go now.
Right. They were like, you're stealing and you need to leave. And I was like, okay. I was upset, but I was upset that I got caught, not that I was doing the stealing. But I think I even helped a couple of my friends like get ties for really, really a super discount and shoes for a super discount because, we were all coming up on prom season. So, yep, that was my very first job ever. And I've had a
Well,
million
listen, I was gonna say, like, I'm sure you've had a million in between. So, how did you get to become Queen Sheba? Like, what was that journey like?
Well, so my first name is Beth Sheba, like in the Bible, but everybody calls me Queen Sheba or Sheba. I grew up adopted by white people in Detroit, hence, and then I went to a youth home. We obviously couldn't get along. So,
Understood.
I was, I'm light skinned, super black, super angry, biracial, just like I'm black. I'm always trying to prove that I'm extra black and be black and
Mm-hmm.
down with the Black Power movement. And, I grew up in the 80s and in the early 90s. So uh, I started doing poetry in Norfolk, Virginia. But at that time, I was 19, 20 years old, maybe 21. And I was working at Bank of America in the recovery department where we call people to pay their credit cards. And we were going to do a film for like I think it was employee morale. We were just going to do a fun video about Bank of America's core values, and just like the commandments, they had 10 of them. And so everybody was like, what do you want your name to be? And I was like, I'll be Queen Sheba. So at the time, Little Kim had just came out, or she just started popping, and then somebody was like, you can't. No, I said I'm going to be Queen B because my name is Beth Sheba.
Oh,
I said, I'll be Queen Bee. And then they were like, you can't be Queen Bee. Lil' Kim is Queen Bee. And I was like, all right, well, I'll be Queen Sheba. So becoming Queen Sheba had nothing to do with poetry. But then when I started doing spoken word and poetry in 1998, then that became my pen name and it's stuck ever since. And then I always tell people, if you call something queen long enough, if you call it beautiful long enough, if you call it something positive long enough, it then begins to morph and believe you. And I think that saying it out loud for the last 22 years has helped shaped me and my personality and how I carry myself and my expectations of the world in a very positive way.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. So, you talk about being a poet. What prompted you to start becoming a poet, and how do you successfully do that? Because I'm sure a lot of people, I feel like they have a talent like that and don't even know how to start.
Um, well, the game will tell you if you belong in it or not. I don't I don't know if this day and age is it necessarily a good time to start, but I would never discourage anyone from following their dreams. If it's something that you really, really want to do and you really can visualize yourself becoming a spoken word artist, and then, by all means, jump out there and do it. And just know that it takes time, it takes practice, just like any other instrument. You have to practice every day. You have to write every day. And nobody's going to be standing over your shoulder. Nobody's going to say, hey, did you write today? Did you write a new poem today? And some of the poems you write are going to be trash. Some of them are going to be treasures. And so I started kind of fast forward, I started a writing workshop in my living room in the spirit of the last poets. I do mine Tuesday evenings. And it's for about 15 to 25 to 30 people, depending on, who shows up that week, because it holds me accountable to write every week. We think of a writing prompt. We all write together for about 30 minutes. And it's not to finish work, it's to get those wheels turning so that you have something to work on in the next coming days, months, and weeks. So I became a spoken word artist while I was at Bank of America. I was there for 5 years, actually. I really did enjoy working at Bank of America. And then the reason I got fired from there, first of all, let's be clear. I've been fired from every single job ever, even poetry. So I just decided being an entrepreneur was obviously best for my personality. So
I totally understand.
yeah, so I own 4 businesses and that are up and prevalent and popping in the city, and that I actually do facilitate on a day-to-day basis. So I say that to say, when I was at Bank of America and I became a supervisor in the recovery department, I then decided that I should take my team outside to listen to my new poems. And somebody in my team was a snitch, and they were like,
Oh,
Miss Rem is taking us outside to listen to her poetry at night. So we work second shift from 2 to 10. And I'd be like, hey, you guys, anybody wants to come out on break to listen to my new poem? I'm going to do it, at tomorrow's open mic or whatever. So really, it was just open mic after open mic. And then people, if they gravitate to you, if you are talented, if they want you to perform elsewhere, will say, hey, just like I got the podcast with you. So just like Adrian saw me somewhere or understood who I was or remembered me from before, then they refer you. It's the same sort of process. So somebody will be like, oh, you should go to this open mic. And that open mic will be like, yo, you should go do this show. And this show will be like, oh, you should be in this movie. And this movie will be like, you should be in another movie. And this would be like, you should do this residency. So it's really about how adamant you are about your career, just like anything else. So I have always seen myself as a career artist, and I always knew that I would be a spoken word artist and writer forever. I knew that. And I've written books, articles. My undergrad degree is in journalism, and then I got my master's degree from Queen's University in Charlotte for creative writing and poetry, actually. So I took stand-up comedy classes. I go to writing workshops. It is something that you have to develop like any other craft. And once you understand that this is a career and that you have to do business and accounting and you have to pay your taxes, and now you're getting older, you want to buy a house and you want to travel and you need a car and you want to send your children to private school or public school, or they need to play in AAU, then you start to understand, oh, this is a business, I'm a business, and let me conduct myself accordingly. So it is something that I live every single day. And I have whatever part-time jobs I have or whatever workshops I pick up to to do or facilitate is because I want to, and not necessarily because of the financial gain. Like, I'm an adjunct professor at Clark Atlanta University, and let me tell you, there is no financial benefit there. So I'm there because the students love spoken word. They sign up for my poetry class. It's usually full. And then as a requirement, as an adjunct, we all have to teach at least one composition class. And we're restricted to only teaching 3 classes. So sometimes I'll teach poetry and fiction, or poetry and storytelling, one of the two, plus a composition class. And I really enjoy it. I still love it. I go to poetry readings. I might show up anywhere in the world, literally, and be in the audience listening to poetry. I'm on my way to St. Louis tomorrow, and there's a poetry show on Friday that I'm thinking about staying for and hanging out, because this is my genre. It's the same way as if I was a trumpet player. So if I was a trumpet player, I would find an open mic that would take musicians, and I would jump in a jam session, because it's all about networking and connecting. Every TV show I've ever been on has been a derivative of them being in a small audience. When I got on the Apollo, it was there were 6 people in the room. When I got on 106 in Park, there was no, I'm sorry, the Apollo was a tryout. That was a whole audience. But 106 in Park, there was 6 people in the room. Versus and Flow was at a very small open mic out in LA. You just never know who's watching. Mm-hmm. And that's how my life has been. And my advice to anybody that wants to start in spoken word or start any sort of new hobby or genre is to keep going, because you never know what the next situation is going to unfold for you.
That's so important, and thank you so much for sharing. So I think, in the TikTokification of the world, everyone assumes that you can snap your fingers and then magic happens, and then you'll be Beyonce, and it's that's just not it. You actually have to work at it.
You still have to post every day. You still have to let people know what you are, and I did say what you are on purpose. So if you are a plumber, you getting on there doing TikTok dances, they don't know you're a plumber. You know what I mean? If you have a whole plumbing business and you're on there, doing voiceovers for funny sounds or doing the TikTok dances, they don't know you're a plumber. So even if you do want to do that, you still got to drop, hey, I'm a plumber video at least once or twice a week. It's all a business. And once people realize that social media now is literally your floating EPK, it is your floating resume, it is your floating website, then people will start to understand and use it professionally and take it a little more seriously. I mean, yes, it is fun. Absolutely. And do I have fun on my social media? Absolutely. 100%. But I also know that if I don't post, if I don't keep going, if I don't say, hey, I'm a poet, hey, I'm a poet, hey, I'm a poet, hey, I'm a poet, hey, book me for your next thing, then the bookings stop.
Yeah, I think it's the consistency of it all that's so important, and not the instant gratification. Because it is that famous thing about the 10,000 hours to be an expert about something, and it's like a muscle. You have to be able to build it every single day. You have to keep taking care of it, and you have to keep working at it. Otherwise, you don't. Like the same thing with us doing events. It's like, how can I do events in my sleep now? Because I work at it.
Right. Exactly. Well, if you ever need a DJ, hit me up. See what I did there? You said events. I said you need a DJ, you need a poet, hit me up. And you got to be able to do that shamelessly. And
absolutely shamelessly, all day long.
Yes, shamelessly. Because if you don't do it 1,000 times, or every time, bing, you said event. Oh, hey, do you need an MC? Do you need a host? Do you need a poet? Do you need a DJ? I do all of those things. Hit me up. You know what I mean? You have to be like that. If you are trying to be an independent artist, know that there's no such thing as underground anymore because of social media. So you are no longer an underground artist. You are independent artist. You are creative, but there's no more underground. You're not just hiding underground somewhere and just going to an open mic. Somebody is going to record you, even if you don't record yourself. So you might as well take advantage of the situation and make sure the world knows who you are.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you have to let people know who you are, and it not be something that you're not. So it's like you gotta be authentically who you are, and not try and fit into anybody's preconceived notion that you think you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better. Like, don't try to, and I'm not saying don't be inspired. Definitely be inspired. But what is your voice? What is your lane? Who are you? What makes you different? Yes, there are 1,000,000,000 gazillion million gazillion poets. Absolutely. What makes me stand out from the other poets is how I dress, how I talk, how I look, how I show up, my professionalism. Do I sing? Do I sing rock music? Do I rap? Do I also tell jokes? Do I tell stories? Am I empowering? Do I leave people on the up, or are they sad and depressed? Do people understand my poems? Can they connect and relate? So, do I take risks with my writing? All of those things are true, and I practice and practice and practice and practice and practice, and there's never an end. So don't feel like, oh, I got my 10,000 hours and I'm an expert. I should be charging blah blah blah. Nope. You keep going. You keep learning. You keep striving.
You have to. There is no if, and, or but about it. And it's so desperately important for folks to actually hear that. Because again, this combination of everything where it's like, oh yeah, it's super duper easy. But I always have people come to me and say, oh, well, I can copy and do what you do for events. So I'm like, oh, try.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, because you never get flappable. I never see anything go weird. So I can just say, quote unquote, laissez faire. But I'm like, yeah, that's
Man.
because because I've built things, so I
Right.
actually know how to not look like I'm crazy.
Right.
Like,
People try to copy poetry versus hip hop all the time. And I'm going to tell your listeners the same thing I tell everybody else. Poetry versus hip hop is a nationally trademarked event, a live show production. And I have Poetry versus Hip Hop Foundation, which is a foundation because my partner romantically and with Poetry versus Hip Hop passed away due to breast cancer. So now we started a foundation arm to help LGBT women, especially masculine presenting women, make sure that they have the resources that they need along their cancer journey. And that's not to say we're excluding anyone. I just wanted to say that it was specific to LGBTQIA masculine presenting women because they sometimes feel like the rules don't apply to them about going to the doctor. And it's like, nope, you still need to go and make sure you get checked out. So people try to copy Poetry versus Hip Hop all the time, but my attorney, Kyle Paskey, right here in Atlanta, Georgia, is going to send you a nice little cease and desist letter, and then if you don't, he's going to send people to your venue and say, hey, you can't do this. You can either pay us right now, and if the show is up and running, we've had to do that. We've actually ran down on a couple people, or oh yeah. Or you change your format of your show, you change the name of your show and keep it moving. And I just tell people, create your own dope shit. You know what I mean? Everybody has creativity inside them. You don't have to steal somebody's, especially because we're going on 8 years and we've built this from the ground up. So don't try to be us, be you, be your authentic self.
it's just not hard. Like, be yourself. I mean, stop trying to copy other people. Don't, but also understand that, like, when you see someone somewhere, they have worked to get there. They didn't magically show up one day and be like, and now I'm here.
Absolutely.
So along your career journey, obviously, you probably had lots of twists and turns. Talk to me about a time when you had a challenge where, like, there's no way I'm getting through this, and then you did.
There's no way I'm going to get over it, career-wise or personally.
Either one, whichever you prefer.
Well, let's put them together. So I spoke briefly about how my partner passed away of breast cancer, and emotionally, personally, and career-wise, I wasn't sure how I was going to recover. She passed away January 3rd of 2022, so 13 months ago. And when she passed away, it was after a 2-year fight through COVID of breast cancer. It was very aggressive. She tried the natural route. She went overseas. She went to a couple cancer facilities. None of it worked. She decided against chemo and radiation, and she wanted to do the holistic route. And when she passed away, she was not, and I want to repeat so everybody listening can understand, she was not settled with it. So when she passed away, she thought she had finally decided, okay, I'm going to go do chemo. And so she lost her memory. and kind of passed out on Christmas of 21. I know that's kind of hard to keep up with, but she passed away in January. So Christmas of 21, which is like, 7 days before the new year, basically, right? So she kind of lost her memory that day, was rushed to the ER, and then stayed in the hospital for a week, which then turned into January of 2022, and she passed away on the 3rd. So she thought she was going to go to her first session of chemo that following Monday, December 27th, right? And so she wasn't settled with it. She hadn't made peace with it. She thought she was, still had some fight in her. And when somebody leaves like that, it is devastating. And on top of that, just the way she chose her cancer journey did not include me. And that was really, that's correct. And it was very difficult to understand and to deal with. So it being COVID and her getting diagnosed at the end of 2019, she decided, well, hey, I got cancer, so I'm going to go see all my friends all around the country. I'm not going to stay in this house. It's COVID. And she worked for Delta, so she could hop on a plane and literally go anywhere in the world. And that's what she decided to do. So I was at home suffering and just being alone during COVID. Also just overly worried, anxious, anxiety, couldn't sleep, crying all the time, just not understanding what is happening, right? And I'm not going to be like, oh, our relationship was roses, because somebody listening to this is going to be like, hold on, wait a minute. Y'all were just perfect. And then all of a sudden she disappeared. No, I didn't say that. But, everybody handles their cancer journey differently. And I had to understand that living in the same house with someone doesn't mean you're in their world. And that destroyed me. I just couldn't grasp it. And so I was slowly going into depression, trying to fight it, but slowly going into a severe depression. So by the time she passed away, she was no longer technically living in the house. And she had decided to move in with her mother and let her mother take care of her. Her body was starting to deteriorate. The cancer had moved from her breast to her liver to her chest to at the end, her brain and her lungs. And they still consider it breast cancer, but once it gets into your lymphatic system, then it starts to travel all over your body. And they really call it like the train that just gets to everywhere. So when she passed away, we were unresolved. Romantically, we stopped doing poetry versus hip hop because she had chose her cancer journey to travel all over, and so all of that crashed. And I just crashed right along with it, and I ate myself into like 40 pounds. If I didn't have to be somewhere, I wasn't somewhere. I literally was in front of my TV all of 2022. And Atlanta is on and popping every single day of the year, and I just pretended Atlanta didn't exist. I didn't participate in any holidays. I literally was in bed with the curtains drawn. I don't know if you know what the GoPuff app is, and I'm not trying to give them like...
Yeah.
Okay.
We have it here in New York. Yep, I know it.
But yeah, so I was ordering from GoPuff, which is worse than Uber Eats, right? So
yes,
I was ordering from GoPuff every single bleeping day. And it was like, and I lean towards vegan. I'm not all the way vegan. I'm more of a pescatarian, but I was ordering vegan ice cream and vegan cookies and I would eat the whole thing like every day. I was having Pop-Tarts for breakfast. And then my reprieve was like, oh, I'm going to go ride my bike 3 times a week. You cannot outwork a bad diet. I have been an adult athlete since 2010, and I know everything about working out and running and swimming and being a triathlete. And you cannot outwork a bad diet, especially only 3 days a week, and especially only for 2 hours per session. So by the end of 2022, which is just, a couple months ago, I was over 200 pounds. Fat had started to settle into my body. I am in my 40s, and fat has started to settle in places that had never settled in before.
It's never been before. Been there.
And I told myself, all right, Sheba, you got a little bit of money. You got about $1. So why don't we go to Dominican Republic and get some of this fat removed and get your teeth done and let's start off 2023, literally new year, new year, you. And so I went to the Dominican Republic, then I almost died. I'm only laughing at trauma. Yes. And so speaking of books, I have a book coming out called The Day I Almost Died in DR, How to Leave Your Toxic Relationship and Body Behind. And that's coming out in June. But I do have a link on my IG for people to pre-order if they want to. So, but anyway, yeah. So working with my agent, my manager to get this book out, I learned so much. But anyway, so that is how I crashed. And what did I do to recover from it? I take 3 weeks out of my life and go to Dominican Republic and rebuild myself physically. And then the thing that I will say about going to get your body redone is please get a therapist, especially if it's not something you're used to doing or if you don't live in that type of life. And as a poet, I don't live in that type of life, although I do live in Atlanta. That's not my immediate circle of friends, right? So, but I've learned so much in the last 6 months about plastic surgery and body reconstruction. So it's not just about vanity. Some people go because they've been in accidents or they're burn victims or they were born with deformities, of course. So all of those things play a part in this overturning factory of plastic surgery out of the country, reconstruction, et cetera, et cetera. But also know that you are giving permission for them to skin you alive on a table. And you need to have an advocate and you need to have somebody that's there to support you. And you also need the support of your friends and family. And you also need to have a therapist to make sure that and even if the therapist is just with you through this process, I mean, you might be unpacking some other things like I just did. But all of that is how I crashed. And now I'm on what I call my long road back. So that's where I am.
Wow.
And I just revealed that book for the first time on your podcast, just so you know.
That's pretty amazing. Well, one, I'm really glad you're here. That is stuff I can't even imagine. Thank you for sharing that. I think you'll help more people than you ever know by what you just shared. Because so many folks have been through similar situations, and to have you share that just now, I think will do a lot of good for a lot of folks. And most importantly, the therapy part, because I think that oftentimes folks do not understand the importance of the therapy. It's like, oh, let's go do this thing because like I want to get the snapback, and it's like, well, what does that come with?
And without revealing too much, but I do explain in my book that the surgery is the easiest part. You go to sleep, wake up, boom, done, right? It is the at home that you don't depending on what you get done. Now, if you just, you get a little tuck here, whatever, then, you recover in a few weeks and keep it moving. But if you get entire body reconstruction, it is not the before and after pictures that you see on Instagram. There is a whole slew of things that you have to change your life about. And even when Adrian introduced us, right? And so I didn't even tell them that I was just 1 month post-op when I went to Israel with them as a delegate. 1 month. And I refused to tell them. I didn't want anybody to have pity. I didn't want anybody to be like, oh, well, do you need me to carry your back? No, I don't want none of that. I just walked a little slower than everybody else. Everybody just kind of thought, oh, well, she's the diva. She's going to be late. And I was like, nope, I'm never late. Don't put that out there. So I was never late. I was just walking slower than other people. And they were like, oh, okay, everything's good. And I never even told them. The first time they will hear about this is on your podcast because I just didn't want the pity. I'm super independent and and I wanted to say I don't think I mentioned this part. We did relaunch Poetry versus Hip Hop October 30th, and we are back in full swing. So I had to think about it and pray about it during my depression year of 2022 and just realized that, just like you said, Poetry versus Hip Hop is not about me. It's about how many people it bridges the gaps between genres and neighborhoods and relationships where people may have not even spoken to each other before. So, and I also realized a lot when it came to death and the spirit world, that this life isn't really about us. It's bigger than us. And so the Poetry versus Hip Hop breast cancer foundation arm came as my way to honor my ex. And, every time we do a show, we give out a enterprising award for a Black or brown person in that city who has helped people, get jobs and become stable, and then also the resources for the breast cancer. So we have relaunched, and I've relaunched, and I have a new attitude, and I just came from the gym, and and we're on our long road.
And I love it. I mean, you're so amazing. I thank you so much for sharing that. Like, I have so many questions, but I'm not going to ask. At a later date, I will.
Ask one of them. Ask one of them. Ask one of your questions.
Okay. What made you decide to go to DR?
So without revealing my pockets, you know what I'm saying? But I have saved up really well. I did really, well in my career. So like I said, I had $1. I'm speaking slang when I say I had $1. So I got you. So I had $1. The semester at Clark was over. Weirdly enough, and this is the first time this ever happened. And I don't even want to put this energy out there, but for the first time ever in 22 years of me being a spoken word artist, nobody booked me for December. Well, not at that point. I did get a couple text messages while I was gone, but at the point that I decided to go, which was late October, I started planning, at that point, nobody had booked me for December. And I was like, man, I got $1. The stars are aligning. I knew somebody that had went to my specific doctor, and she lives in Atlanta, and she walked me through the do's and don'ts. I'm not even going to get into the recovery house. That's a whole nother episode, right? So anyway, so she suggested the recovery house. Then my doctor suggested the dentist. So I got my teeth done down there, my chin done, tummy tuck, hips. I got the insides of my thighs lipoed, and my entire back lipoed. So they did more than they were supposed to. And I just, decided, hey, the stars are aligning. But what I also decided was, if you're going to go down there and you're going to spend this $1 on this body reconstruction, one, get a therapist and understand that wherever you go, there you are. So just because you change your body doesn't mean you change your mind without changing your mind and your lifestyle, right? And so then I also decided, if you're going to go down there and spend this money, then you also need to buy a house. So I was
right. There's that. There's that.
Right. So I was down there getting surgery and porcelain teeth, buying a house at the same time, and my real estate agent blowing me up every single
5 minutes. Oh my gosh.
So there was
oh wow.
I literally had to put her on D&D, do not disturb, to get some sleep. I was like, okay, I can't sign one more piece of paper right now. And so I did not have the luxury first time home buyer experience that everybody had. It was really bananas and stress. And I came back and literally signed the closing paper the day before getting on the plane to go to Israel and be one of the 8 delegates chosen from around the country to go on this Office of Foreign Affairs delegation tour. Literally was 1 month post-op and 1 day signing the closing papers on my new house, which I still haven't moved into yet. So it's just it's been a whirlwind. So that's why I chose DR, is because I knew that I can make my dollar stretch. And I did get references. I did research the doctor. And that's what my book talks about. Just don't go off of pictures. Please, God, don't do that. And it's not, this book is not to discourage people, because people are going to go. That is not what this book is about. This book is telling you the steps to make sure that you have everything covered that you need to have covered, from the time that you go, from the time that you're there, what they're going to try to hustle you on, the extra things they're going to try to make you buy or do. And then when you come home, what your home life needs to look like for at least 90 days. And then after that, that's on you. But it'll give you those suggestions. Yep. So
Wow.
DR, I mean, people can go wherever. Like, this book isn't saying go to DR or not go to DR. This is saying
Hmm.
wherever you do decide to go, these are the steps that you need to take to make sure that your doctor is legit. So I was in a hospital, and the hospital was across the street from their White House, was across the street from their president's house, not living house, it's office. So
Right.
it was legit, verified hospital. This is an actual hospital in Santo Domingo, and it was an amazing experience. I have no issues, no complaints.
Wow.
Except for the
Amazing.
part.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for that small itty bitty
Yeah.
little
And in
thing.
the book, I tell people how that happens and what happens and how to prevent that. And one of it is don't lie. Don't lie about your health. That's one, and that's not why mine happened. I did not lie about my health. They do take you through, if they are proper doctors, and they do take you through a rigorous physical. The physical should last all day. They should take you through everything from the top of your brain down to your toes before they do the surgery, because you don't want to be added to their body count. And don't lie about your health. If you smoke, tell them you bleep and smoke, because it's not to say that you're not going to get the surgery. They're just going to make adjustments so that you survive.
Yeah,
Because
which is rather important.
it's
So,
very important, because most weed smokers lie. They say, "Oh no, I only smoke like once a week." Nah, if you smoke every day, tell them you smoke every
you
day.
smoke every day, right?
Tell them you smoke every day, because they'll make adjustments instead of being like, "Oh, well," because the anesthesia alone, and this is all I'm gonna give y'all, but the anesthesia alone from the book, the anesthesia alone helps you breathe and stay alive, right? Everybody knows that. That's super simple.
Hmm.
But if your lungs don't have the capacity while you're under because you lied about smoking, you might not wake up. So let me ask you this question, listeners. If you're a weed smoker, cigarette smoker, meth smoker, crack smoker, whatever smoker you are, would you rather tell them the truth and have them make the small adjustments that they need to make, or would you rather lie and then be dead? So that's what you have to
It's
ask
pretty
yourself.
straightforward.
It's pretty straight, and and people need to understand when you go under, it is major surgery. I don't care if you're getting rhinoplasty or if you're getting your cheekbones done, and those are, minor, things that you should just wake up from in an hour or two, or if you're getting entire body reconstruction and 360 lipo. And 360 lipo, again, without going into the whole book, is a whole nother thing. You could get your lungs punctured, your stomach punctured. You could get all sorts of things could happen with that long bleeping needle that they are shoving back and forth all over your body. So again, this book is not to discourage people from not getting plastic surgery. It is to say, please do your research and follow these steps before you go and then after you come back, to ensure you have a safe surgery and an awesome recovery.
So basically, your book is going to be a bestseller because I feel like so many people need to hear it.
Thank you.
So many people say this, say that they want to get their stuff done, and then they don't realize the importance of paying attention to every single one of these aspects.
Yes.
So we will be putting those links in the show notes for you all to pre-order this book, because it is necessary for folks to actually understand if this is something they decide to do after they focus with a therapist, because it's extremely true.
And then
So
for people
obviously,
who are nervous about the therapy, just go while you're going. Just go to therapy while you're going, and the 90 days when you get back. Just make me that or make yourself that promise. Just go for that little bit of time. You don't have to go for years and years and years. Just go talk to your therapist about why you want to go. Talk to them while you're gone, because you're going to be gone for 3 weeks depending on, what you get done. And then talk to them for the 90 days you get back, and then be done. You're good. I'm not saying, go be in therapy for 5 years unless you start unpacking stuff like me. You know what I mean? But the minimum 4 months. 4 months. That's it. The minimum.
I think it's important. It really is. It absolutely is. So you've had an amazing career and you've lived a lot of lives. What does Queen Sheba do for her self care, especially now?
Well, I hinted about it a little earlier. I am a triathlete, so I swim, bike, run, and I still swim, bike, run, and I am still in my recovery process. I am 2 months post-op in a couple days. So I Right now, I only go to the gym literally once or twice a week. I only lift 10 pounds and I walk on the treadmill for 2 miles very slowly at two. At the, the speed on the treadmill is two. It's
It's
not
two.
five, not six, it's not eight. I'm not running. But I did sign up for a marathon at the end of the year, and I did sign up for a bike ride with my cycling crew. I don't own the crew. I'm saying the crew that I'm a part of is Bonafide Cycling Crew. You can follow us on IG. And then my running crew is Movers and Pacers. And so I do plan on running a marathon at the end of the year in DC. And then the cycling crew Bonafide, we're going to Jamaica in November. And those are my big, what athletes call their A race, right? So I am literally, when I say the long road back, I'm literally having to teach myself how to run all over again. And when you get that, major reconstruction, know that you can't come home and just lift up your baby or lift up your puppy or lift up your, like, you can't do it.
Right.
So that is what I do for myself. I swim, bike, run, and I love it. It's my meditation session, and even though it's at a minimum right now, I'm starting to do yoga so that I can take care of my skin, my body, and my back, and it's been amazing.
Wow. So very cool. All the lessons that you probably learned along the way, what do you think you'd tell 18-year-old Queen Sheba?
Um, don't give up, and the lesson that I learned this year that I would tell 18-year-old Queen Sheba is do what makes you happy, period. Do not be a people pleaser. And I didn't realize I was a people pleaser until my ex passed away and had to reevaluate a lot of things. So I would tell 18-year-old Queen Sheba and anybody else that's listening that may feel like they might be a people pleaser or an enabler, who are in relationships where they keep letting things slide and letting things slide and letting things slide because you think that they'll get better. They're not. Let me just stop. That's a period. They're not. They're not going to get better. So I would tell my 18-year-old self and anybody else that's listening, do not be a people pleaser and do what makes you happy. And that will be tough sometimes because it may not make the masses or your immediate friends and family happy, but you have to be happy. And the example that I give to people when I'm doing my talks or when I'm speaking at colleges or corporations is a small thing. Like people say, hey, do you want to go to Waffle House or IHOP? I'm just using those examples. And everybody's like, oh, Erin, let's go to IHOP. Let's go to IHOP. And you're like, I want to go to Waffle House. Go to Waffle House because you're going to be mad the whole time you're at IHOP. You're going to be mad. And then you're going to go home like, damn, I wanted that pecan waffle. And Waffle House, and IHOP didn't even have a pecan waffle. I knew I should, it's small things that are going to drive you insane. And then there are big decisions. If somebody asks you to marry them, and I mean men and women, and you're like, that means no. that means,
Yeah.
that means don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. And then be brave enough to cut it off. Be like, hey, if marriage is where you want to go, I'm not there. I think we should just be friends or whatever, however you break up. And that's going to be tough because you've gotten comfortable. You know each other. You wash each other's drawers. Like, I get it. You know what each other wants to eat. But if it's not what you want, don't bleeping do it because you only have one go. You only have one go. And so the big thing that I learned, even though I didn't agree with it or didn't understand it or was having a hard time and was wrestling with it, is when my ex decided to go see the world and go see her friends and go to New York and go to da 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 da, and I wasn't included. And it's because that's what she wanted to do, period. Now, the other side of that is if you and or somebody that's doing something to make them happy, which is fine. You should be, we're trying to get to the mature place, the emotional maturity of letting people do what makes them happy without controlling them. That is very important. So just like I was upset that my ex wanted to go off and see the world, and it was COVID, and I was home by myself, and I was suffering and crying, and it is wrong, was wrong, and is wrong for me to cry, throw a tantrum, throw a fit, and try to emotionally control somebody. That is abuse. Let me repeat that. Trying to emotionally control somebody is abuse. Looking through somebody's phone is abuse. It is not your business, not your phone, not your situation. Now, what I should have done, which I did not do, when my ex decided to venture off and not include me in her cancer journey, I should have moved on right then and there. I should have said, "Oh, I'm not part of it. Okay, shoot, do your thing, boo. Hey, okay." But I didn't. I stayed and cried and waited. And no, I hope you come back. And no. 18-year-old self, Sheba. When somebody's like, "Hey, they don't want to be around. They don't want to be around you. They ain't including you." Blah. Bye. Okay, that's what. Let people do what makes them happy. And if it doesn't make you happy, then you move around it. Don't say to somebody, "Well, break up with me then." You break up. You leave. You go. And that's hard to do. But that is when you know that you have gotten close to mastering emotional maturity, is when you can make decisions that are hard for you, for your own self-care, your mental health, all of those
I
things.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
You just
How many
preaching the
times have
word
you heard your
here.
friends be like, well, he should break up with me? No, you break up. You leave. And I don't care if it's your apartment. So get another one. Apartment ain't nothing but a
Exactly.
box. It's nothing but a box with some bathrooms and some bedrooms. It's another one next door. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, and
Yeah.
we make things harder than they are. And it is hard. It will be hard. You will cry. But guess what? Guess what? Crying about somebody that doesn't want to be around you is, I know this is going to be hard to hear, is emotionally immature. I know it's hard. And it's selfish. And it's selfish. I know it's hard to hear, but these are the things that I've learned along my way. It's selfish. If somebody says to you, "Hey, I'm not happy here. I want to move on." You're like, "Oh my God, please don't leave." That's abuse and immature. I know you're going to be upset, but the emotionally mature thing to say is, "I'm sorry that you're not happy here. I'm sorry this worked out. What can I do to help you get the bleep out of here?" No, I'm just playing.
I
You
get you.
just say, how can we make this transition easy for both of us, and then
Right.
go from there. Yeah.
I love that. And you're just preaching your word. I haven't said anything more. Like you just that's it. And last question for you. Do you have a give and or ask of the audience? And I have a feeling I know what this one is, but go for it.
I give. Ooh. So what I can give is of my talents. So if anybody wants to commission me to be a keynote speaker for anything that you have coming up, your corporate events, your universities, um, your freshman week, or your commencement speeches, or whatever, then if you mention this podcast, then I can give you a discount on my works, and my booking fee. And the ask, of course, is please go to my website, which is thequeensheba.live, and or my Instagram page, and please pre-order the book, The Day I Almost Died in DR. So if you could do that, that would be amazing. And I just want to be very clear, it's not due out until June. However, you pre-ordering the book will definitely help commission the proper PR people and the editors and the copy editors and all of those things. So that is what helps independent artists, is capital.
Wonderful. Well, Queen Sheba, I have to bow to you because you've just been so amazing. I cannot thank Leslie enough for connecting us because oh my gosh, this is
Leslie is amazing.
amazing. Like she's just, she's like, you must talk to her, and I'm like, she was not right. Like this has been amazing. We're gonna put all the details in the show notes so folks can connect with you, pre-order this damn book. Was a bestseller because I already said it, it's going to be,
Thank
and hire this woman and pay her rates. That's all there is to it.
you.
But Queen Sheila, thank you so very much for being part of 29 Days of Magic. You are an inspiration and just. Uh, I'm so in awe of everything that you've been able to do. So thank you so much for being part of the campaign.
It's my honor. Thank you so much for making the time. I know that you're super busy, and the next time you go to Nordstrom's across the street from yourself and you walk by Louis Vuitton, just throw me some earrings or a belt or something.
That's
But
a good idea.
thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate you. When I get up that way, I have a lot of college gigs that are up in Pennsylvania and New York this coming spring, actually, in the next couple months. And then in the fall, I definitely will hit you up. And I would love to do Poetry versus Hip Hop New York with you.
I have an idea. We're gonna talk some more.
Okay, awesome.
But awesome. And that is our show.